Hello and welcome to Insights. Today we're talking about the pros and cons of applying social software to your business. And here on the desk with us in New York to discuss this topic is John Hagel, the author of a series of best-selling business books and the co-chairman of the Silicon Valley-based Deloitte Center for the Edge. John, welcome back from the Edge.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What I'd like to understand first is, what do you define as social software?
Well, social software has become a very broad grab bag of lots of different technologies that have emerged, some fairly early, others much more recent. Everything from instant messaging to wikis to blogs to discussion forums online. It's all software that's designed to help people connect and communicate more effectively with each other. And it's not just within the enterprise, but it's also with customers. So it's people outside the organization as well as inside. But what's happening now is a lot of these one-off technologies are getting integrated into platforms where there's much more seamless communication across larger and larger groups.
Now, obviously, there's a number of organizations that are trying to implement these types of software into their daily workdays. In your view, how's that process going?
It's going very unevenly. Like most new technologies, I think the early adoption within the enterprise actually is coming in under the radar screen. You find teams who have been put together for a 6-month or 12-month project on their own initiative going out and finding social software that can help them collaborate as a team without the approval, without even the knowledge often of the central IT department. So that's one form and probably the most frequent occurrence in terms of adoption. You also see ad hoc adoption where one executive goes to a conference, hears about social software and says, wow, this is interesting, let me deploy it in my part of the company. And then increasingly also there's a situation where senior executives are saying this is a check the box thing. I gotta have a blog, I gotta have a discussion forum or a Twitter-like platform in my enterprise. Get me one of those. They don't really know exactly why, but they just want to check the box and say they've got it.
So it sounds a little unrefined. In your view then, how can it become more refined, more even, to your point earlier?
Well, our sense, having looked at a lot of the adoption that's gone on, is there's a real opportunity to tie social software to metrics that matter to the company. And that's today a gap that exists. The social software evangelists are not really talking about what matters to the company in terms of operating metrics that these executives are measured on. So I think that there's an opportunity now to take this new technology and say, starting at the highest level, the senior executives are typically measured on financial metrics. So what are the financial metrics that are most challenging or biggest opportunity at this point in time? Then drill down to the operating metrics that are relevant to those financial metrics to say, okay, what operating metrics drive that? It could be that growth, revenue growth is the biggest issue for the company. It may be that at the operating level, customer churn is a problem. We're turning over customers more rapidly than we would like. And then drill down further to the frontline metrics and say, okay, why is that churn happening? Well, it might be that you're not very effective in responding to customer questions when they call in and have issues with the product or service you're offering. So now you've got something very tangible that says, okay, what can we do with social software to help the customer support function do their job better and more effectively answer the questions? And that in turn is going to make the biggest impact on the company. It's not just a random site within the company, it's the one that's really going to matter to the financial metrics at the most senior levels. So taking that funnel, we think, is a really interesting way to make this a much more systematic adoption process, going after the metrics that really matter to the company the most.
So beginning with the end in mind as a best practice. My last question for you, I'm going to have you stare into your crystal ball. And as we've been talking about social software, what do you see being the big software in the next 5 to 10 years? What do you think the companies are going to be using?
Well, crystal balls are usually murky, so it's with some trepidation. But I think that over time what we're going to see is a continuing evolution both in the functionality of the software we have today and integration of these functionalities so that you again have a broader platform to interact, and where you're going to see this boundary that exists today where we say there's social media which faces out to the customer and then there's social software that happens within the company. I think we're going to see platforms that emerge that more effectively integrate those two dimensions. So you're at one level interacting with third parties that matter to the company, but connecting them to the people that matter within the organization and helping them to achieve performance levels that they haven't been able to achieve before.
And one last thing with that too, maybe another angle with that crystal ball, is there anything that companies might shy away from? Do you think they're learning any lessons and saying, maybe this isn't the best approach for us?
Well, I think the issue that I see a lot of companies wrestling with is this top-down blanketing approach. And the problem that you have when you just mandate everybody's going to have this social software platform is what's known as the empty bar problem. You go in once, you look around, there's nobody else there, and you leave and you're never coming back. That was not a very fun experience or satisfying experience. So I think the notion of being very targeted initially and saying who are the people that really are going to get the most value from this, will be the most motivated to participate. Let's get them on board first, and then let's broaden it out over time to the rest of the company, is probably a much more effective way of engaging people.
So avoid the empty bar. John, thank you very much. All right, we've been talking about the application of social software in business with best-selling author John Hagel, who also co-chairs the Silicon Valley-based Deloitte Center for the Edge. If you'd like to learn more about John or any of the topics we discussed on this broadcast, you can find that information on our website. It's Deloitte.com/InsightsUS. For all the good folks here at Insights, I'm Sean O'Grady. We'll see you next time.